Hey everybody, welcome back. Good evening. It's another JC Live. Thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you. Listen, let me know if the audio sounds good. We're battling tonight. We're battling. Matter of fact, let me change the screen here. That is what our connection looks like. Yeah, T-Mobile is doing everything, and currently Starlink is doing zippo, nothing. We're in like a massive storm right now, and Starlink has no connection at all. So, well, we're going to make this work unless all the lights go out, and then you know why. It's been really bad for like a bit now. Not for a little while, but I think a long while. It's been pretty bad. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. Really do appreciate each and every one of you. It's a Friday night. Thank you for hanging out with me. You see, my better half is not here, sadly, but it was just one of those nights. She's got a lot going on, and it is what it is. Next time, you might not have to just endure my mug. You'll have my wife too, so at least she'll be at least something to look at besides this all the time. Anyways, today is an interesting one, right? There's a lot of stuff going on this week, but the big thing that happened was SpaceX. Did you guys hear that? If my audio is doing well, then you probably heard that. Anyways, SpaceX finally discontinued their satellites, their current satellites, which are the version 1.5s. Now, the 1.0s, they haven't been sending those up into orbit for quite some time, but the 1.5s, which are the newer ones that have the built-in laser communication and all the rest of the stuff, they discontinued them. The last batch went up on the 7th, and today is the 7th. So it was today when they sent up the very last batch of the 1.5s. So that is really good news. I did a video about this 2 days ago, and it like blew up. I got a ton of people saying that, oh, it's clickbait. They're not going, they're not all the satellites were going. Just read the description, read the pinned comment, and listen to me for the first minute before you write clickbait, and you will know what's going on. But you know how people are, they get all butt hurt, they get all bent, and it is what it is. But I'm all right with that. Anyways, so like I said, right now you guys can see, I'm going to leave this on the screen for a little bit so you can see it. We have no Ethernet, which is the Starlink, and we're only running on T-Mobile. And I'm going to be talking about that. You'll hear plenty more thunder probably, but I'll be talking about that throughout tonight. But let's go ahead and see who's here. And then we'll get into any kind of questions that you have. All right. Put a Q before the question, or just do @JCristina. And this way we see it. It pops up really quickly. Yeah, so I guess I'm sure a lot of you are hearing the thunder. Anyways, who do we have here? Peter Madsen, how are you doing, my friend? You are the moderator for tonight. Rancher Dad, how's it going? Dominic, how's it going? Let's see, memorable places. We have Low Tech Greg, how are you? Eric, what's going on? Degaz, how are you doing? Anthony, Flying Pretzel, happy Friday. Ian, who else do we have here? Let's see. Greenland, we have Bajarn. I think it's Bajarn. How are you doing? Wow, look at this. Dense fog, and he's getting 170 meg down and 20 meg up. That is crazy. So I'm going to do a speed test real quick on T-Mobile. And then I'll show it to you and see what we got going on right now. Just let that run. Let's see. John, how are you doing? John from sunny Puerto Rico. Ren, how are you? Let me go up to, and we have RV Life. How are you? Luis. So a bunch of you are here already. I know this was kind of like big topics, a lot of things going on. Let me just state that if there's anything that you want to talk about tonight, it doesn't need to be Starlink. Could be whatever. Could be off-grid stuff. It could be any kind of tech things. It doesn't really make a difference. You want to talk about Threads and, Meta, their new version of Twitter. I don't care. Whatever it is, you let me know. We'll talk about it. This is just a hangout, right? Just to kind of relax on a Friday night. So let me see. I'm going to get through a couple of questions. And then once again, if you have any questions, stick them in the chat window and make sure you put either at JCristina or put a Q before it so it kind of pops up to me. Let's see. Rancher Dad says NASA spaceflight announced that its last Starlink version 1.5 launches on the 13th from Pad 40. Yeah, that's it. That is, it says Pad 40 today. I think it was today, actually. Let's see. Dominica says a small world, just have a bit of rain over there, not enough still to. Yeah, there's rain in South Florida. We're getting pummeled right now. Pummeled. Memorable Places says question. I have arrived, so you may begin. Appreciate that. Let me see. And I brought my donuts for everyone. And he said, Joe, let me see. We have email on Facebook and PM about some Adobe alternatives. Let me know what your question is. We're live, so I can give you some information on Adobe. Doesn't make a difference. Memorable Places, put your question down in the chat. I'm sure there's a couple of people that want to know about Adobe. Let's see. Don. I had a rain bad. Okay, bad. So big rain 45 minutes ago. More thunder. That's not me. It's not fake. It's real. Notice Starlink was out. Yeah, it's really strange. When I looked at the dish, it was pointing straight up. I unplugged the router, and it didn't help. After 45 minutes, it works. Thoughts? Don, my thoughts are I have not a damn clue. I've never heard about that ever. Like when there's extreme rain and the thing goes out and then all of a sudden the dish, instead of pointing at an angle that it normally does, just points straight up and then just sits there. So I've never heard of that. So I don't know what is going on with that. I'm glad you unplugged it, plugged it back in, and 45 minutes later it's working. At least it didn't get hit by lightning or something, catastrophic happen. That's very, very strange. Let me see. Do we have Starlink up yet? We do not. They're still down. Let's see. Low Tech Greg, he says number 4. Like, damn it, I'm slipping. You are slipping. Get here sooner. We had to go live. I figured 8:45 will go live instead of 8:30, giving 15 minutes. Hopefully this thunderstorm would roll out. It's not rolling out. I think it's getting louder. Let's see. Eric, good evening. JCristina and Fabiola. I wish she was here, but she is not. Love you too, Eric. Really appreciate you being here. Low Tech Greg says rain. Haven't had any for a couple of months. Wow, in Palm Springs, no rain. I can't even imagine. Down here in Florida, it's raining all the time. That's what Florida is all about. In the summer, rain and more rain. Eric says, question. What can you tell us about the latest with Starship? So Starship, the latest going-ons with that is basically they are trying to reinforce the pad for their Maxi rocket. Some people make fun of it and call it a Maxi pad. But however you want to deem it, it is the pad that is underneath the Starship that got blown into pieces and chunks and got flown everywhere. And it actually destroyed some of the engines and caused the catastrophic failure that we saw, and so on and so forth, blah, 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 right? So they're rebuilding it, and they're rebuilding that base out of stainless. Basically, it's covered stainless steel. And inside that stainless is going to be water pipes, and there's going to be millions of gallons, let's call it, of water just constantly flowing through it so that it cools. Just think of it as like a massive heat sink on a computer with a water cooling system on it. So there you go. It's a massive water cooling heat sink is what they've created. And I'm sure that's going to work. I have a really good feeling about it. This just simply makes sense, right? If you do it on this scale and just do it exponentially louder or larger, it's going to work. It doesn't really matter how big. So, but everything has to scale. That means the thickness, and what also is very important is the amount of liquid that's going through it. So anyways, that's the latest. I'm going to guesstimate before, I would say probably June, July, August, September. So probably in August, we're going to see probably another attempt, maybe by the end of August, September, right around there. It really depends on, they're going to get everything done, but then they're going to also have to wait for approval, right? So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I'm going to guess that we're going to see that Starship up in the air, not blowing up at least once or twice before the end of the year, possibly even carrying some of the Starlink version 2s, the big ass ones, right, into orbit. Now, if they even get them up there in December, let's say, they're probably not going to go operational until January. It takes about a month. If you don't know it, when SpaceX launches those satellites, they usually hit about 200, 250, 300 kilometers. Once they deliver them there, let's say 50 of them, or now 22 of them, let's say, if they're the new inside the Falcon 9, they can only hold about 22 of the version 2 minis. So they deliver those, but then it takes like sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes a month and a half for them to go from that 300 kilometers to the operational orbit, which is about 530 kilometers for the new version, second series, right? Whereas the old ones were sitting at about 550 kilometers. So they're closer. And the FAA gave them approval to be closer, which is good. Closer, the better. It's faster and lower latency. I like it. So that's kind of my take on it. We'll see what ends up happening with it. Let me see what this speed test shows. Hang in there 1 second. Let me do a drop-down camera on here, and so I can show you guys. This is pretty amazing, if you ask me. So there you go. The height of the storm, and we have 105 down and 15.5 up. Not bad, not bad at all for, T-Mobile. While Starlink, let me flip back over, as you can see, it is reading as nothing. It is not connected at all. It's grayed out. So it is what it is. All right, moving on. Audio sounding good. Fantastic. Appreciate that. That's good to know. Happy Friday. Anthony says hello. Ian says good evening. How are you doing, Ian? Dominic says, yep, boom, boom. So obviously you guys could hear the thunder. I don't hear it right now, so maybe it's slowly moving away. That'd be good. Maybe we'll see Starlink come back up online. They're still off. Let's see. We have RV Life. How are you tonight? Very well. How are you doing? Ren, once again from Puerto Rico. John says, good evening from Utah. How you doing, John? Joe says, question. Can you explain what actually happens when satellites receives the Earth's link connection? Where does the signal go into the satellite? All right, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking there, Joe, but if you don't know how it works, it basically works like this. If I put in a request to Google right now and Starlink was working, which is not, let's just make believe it is. The request will go from my computer, right, into the Starlink router, to the modem that's sitting in Dishy over there, or Mr. Bevel, and then it will launch that request, let's say, to the satellite. The satellite would then bounce it back down to my ground station, and then my ground station that's close to me will fire it off to the POP, or the point of presence, okay, which is in Atlanta, Georgia. Don't ask why. That'll turn me into just like a nasty guy because it's stupid. But anyways, my POP is in Atlanta, Georgia, even though I'm in Florida. Okay, don't ask. So once the POP gets it, it sends the request to Google. Google responds and sends the request back to the POP. The POP sends it back to the ground station. The ground station throws it back up to the satellite, and then the satellite, whichever satellite is there now, because they could be moving, because they're moving at 17,000 miles per hour. Anyways, could be a different satellite, pops it back to the satellite, and then blows it back down to Mr. Bevel. And then it comes to the router, and there's our response. That is basically how it goes through the operation. But, and this is the big but, once we have those version 2s, we're going to see those ground stations. Like I said, it goes from the dish to the satellite, to the ground station, then to the POP. We're going to see it go from the dish to the satellite, and then from the satellite to another satellite that's closer to the POP, my POP, then another satellite, and then another satellite, and then down straight to the POP, and basically get rid of that ground station altogether, because they have the inner, let's say, inner laser or inner satellite laser communication. So it can actually send the data from satellite to satellite to satellite and never have to come down until it needs to come down. And that's going to increase, it's going to speed things up a lot. You're going to take out a couple of hops, number one, and you're going to lessen the amount of ground traffic that you need, because a lot of our speed reduction is due to the ground and not, let's say, terrestrially instead of non-terrestrially, because our information goes from our dish to the satellite in anywhere from about 3 to 6 milliseconds. So every millisecond after that is slowness that's being caused from moving from one ground place to another ground to another now to another. Follow me? So this is what I think is what's going to happen. And then in the long term, my vision shows me that we're going to see POPs, or point of presence, or NOCs, or network operation centers, non-terrestrial. Big ass satellites that are now working almost as a POP. And now nothing has to come down unless it's going to be the final mile where it asks Google for that request and then gets that back. So you just need a means to go up and down. So there's going to be a lot more data crunching and stuff going on non-terrestrially instead of terrestrially. That's going to speed up stuff a lot. Think of it as like a massive cache up in the clouds. I don't know, something like that. All right, hopefully that makes any sense. You know I run on and on and on, right? Catching flies. Let's see. Texas Cadence is watching and yelling at the screen. Love Cadence. Oh, man. Can't wait. Cannot wait, Flying Pretzel. Let's see. Thorn, hello. On the other end of the storm, yes. Baron from Minnesota, how are you doing? Deb. How are you doing? Deb Smith from Washington State. How are you doing? Let's see. John, this morning I got 350 down and 30 up with a ping of 45 to 40 milliseconds. That is crushing it. That is sweet. That is really nice. I don't see that. The fastest I've ever seen Starlink was 310, I believe, down, and that was during the end of beta. So it's been a while. That was when there's like 90,000 people. 110,000 people, not 1.5 million that we have now, which is crazy. Peter, thanks a lot for everything that you do. Appreciate you. Anthony, how often is your Starlink up? It's usually up all the time, 24/7, and only goes down during weather like this. And as you see, look at this, guys. I'm glad I left the screen on. Do you see Speedify? It says streaming redundantly, and we see now Starlink and T-Mobile are both working simultaneously. So that is sweet. So we are back. So you can watch this and see if we go down. Now, as you can see, Speedify says streaming redundantly. The reason it says redundantly is because what it's doing is it's mirroring the packets. It knows that Starlink is currently in a not so great state. So what it's doing is it's taking every one of my packets and sending it to both systems, both ISPs, to make sure that at least one of them gets there. That's called redundant bonding. When it sends just bonding, period, that means now it is bringing them both together for speed. Right now it's not going for speed, it's going for redundancy so we don't go down. So if Starlink just now, look on the screen, guys. Starlink just went down. You see it's grayed out? Boom. It is gone. We are only now streaming once again with T-Mobile. So that's why it was doing the redundancy. Because if we were only on Starlink, right now we would be off. But since we're using Speedify, and that's one of the reasons why I love this software. If you guys don't have Speedify, check it out. It's a VPN. It does the redundant bonding. It does packet level bonding. It's just kick ass. I don't know. They gave me a promo code, which is JCristina. So if you go to Speedify and you ordered it from them, you get 20% off. Or there is probably going to be a link down below, which is jcristina.com/speed. You can pick it up if you want. I love it. I use it all the damn time. And every one of these streams always uses it because I don't want to go down. And oh, look at that. Starlink is back, guys. It is back. But you see what's going on? It's going in and out. And that's why you'll see streaming redundantly. When you see streaming bonding, then we know that Starlink is stable. Right now it is not stable, and you can see it has 2 stars. Now it has 1.5 stars. Now it only has 1 star. Now it's gone. Do you see how fast Speedify was identifying that there's a problem with it? And now it's gone? That's why I love it. Anyways, that's just like a quick thing that why I use Speedify. Anyway, so I'm going to leave that up for right now. Let me get back into some of these questions before I fall behind. Keep asking the questions. I will definitely get to all of them. Let's see. Ren says it's sunny in Puerto Rico. It's not sunny here. That's good. That's really good. Greetings from Portugal. That's Luis. How are you doing, Luis? Let's see. Let me go down here. John, yep, with your 350 down. That is fantastic. Here we go. Max says, been looking into getting 3 Starlinks and bonding them together. Yes, bonding. Been looking at a company called Combox, and they are giving me a 1 gigabit for $150 per month with hardware purchase of $800. Okay, so here's the problem that I have, Max, with bonding 3 Starlinks together. The problem is like, for example, in a situation like this, right? If I had 3 Starlinks bonded together, okay, and we have a storm, even though I have 3 Starlinks and I'm paying for 3 services, how much service am I getting right now? Even though they're bonded? Zip, right? The reason that is because all 3 of them are going to use the exact same damn satellite. So if that satellite cannot be communicated with, Starlink is back. If they can't communicate with that satellite, all 3 of those are down. And that's why I always say 2 is 1, 1 is none. It doesn't matter if you're in the military, if you are a police officer, if you are on a ship, if you fly a plane, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Redundancy is next to godliness, right? Those folks that were on that submersible, if there was more redundancy, okay, they wouldn't have perished, right? There needs to be some type of redundancy for me with my internet connection, because this is what I do. So if I don't have internet, now I'm out. I can't do anything, right? So for me, it's very important to have redundancy. So I would say that if you're looking for a gig connection, go with multiple ISPs, maybe 3 ISPs, and then bond them together. Okay, and then you know that if one fails, you'll have failover to the next. And if all of them are on, you can bond. Make sure Max, make sure that it's packet level bonding and not session level bonding. Find out, because if it's session level, just forget it all. Just forget it. It has to be packet level bonding. Very important. Anyways, that's my take on it. Do your due diligence, right? Don't listen to me. I'm just some guy on YouTube. What do I know? Let me see. Memorable Places says, Joe, please see your email. I will do that. I will look at that. No worries. Let me see. Max says, pretty excited to try to get the 1 gigabit rule. Yeah, it's not an easy thing, but hopefully what I've told you helps. Memorable Places says, it has to do with alternatives, not opening priority files and such. 200 characters is way few. Okay, so yeah, we'll take a look at that. Memorable Places, I'll see. Normally I use for Adobe alternatives, I'm using for the most part, I mean, it depends. I'll use a lot of different things for different things, but for example, if I'm doing video, I'm going to use DaVinci Resolve. If I'm doing photo, like a Photoshop alternative, I'm going to use Affinity Photo. I might use Affinity Designer or Affinity Publisher or something like that. I use a lot of Affinity, which is Serif is the name of the company that makes that. I'll use Lightroom alternatives. You know, I'll use On1, or I will use, there's a lot of different things. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. And I've reviewed so many of them. I have the Life After Adobe Cutting the Cord series, and I reviewed a whole bunch of software. But I'm going to be doing I guess a next version to that with all new software. So kind of stay tuned to that. That's going to be a next project. Right now, I'm working on a project, just so you guys know. Okay, the project is taking this router, right, which is that T-Mobile, which we're using right now, okay? And now making it faster. So one of the things that I'm using is one of these. Like, what the hell? Is that a snow cone maker? What the hell is this, Joe? What is that? So a company sent me 3 antennas. They sent me a 2x2 MIMO antenna, a 4x4 MIMO panel antenna, and this is one of the 4x4 MIMO. This is called a log periodic. Anyways, so this is one of the 4. So this is one method. And what I'm doing is I am testing the log periodic, which is an LP antenna. I'm testing the flat panels, the 4x4s, as well as the 2x2s. I'm testing them externally to the building. And right now, I have one connected. And that's one of the reasons why we don't see T-Mobile going down. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing speeds of 105 down and like 15.5 up during the worst part of the storm. Anyways, I've been working on this for about 3 weeks, and come Monday, hopefully the edit is done. I'm going to give you a breakdown of all these antennas, which ones worked, which ones don't work, which ones to buy, why to buy it, who should buy which ones, which ones do what, you know, what the benefits of each one is, all of the tools that you need, and a ton of tips. So basically, I boiled down 3 weeks of my testing into 30 minutes. I'm hoping it might be 35, 40 minutes. I'm going to try to make it as short as I can, but it is a big project, a massive project. Anyways, kudos to the guys over at Waveform that sent me over these. And like I said, we'll get into this in depth on Monday. And if you guys have questions about this, let me know. I'll give you any kind of information that you want now, here, live, because it's just us, right? We're just talking, okay? But everyone else will see it next week. But yeah, like I said, I've done a lot of testing. And what we're doing is we're taking the router that looks like this, that's sitting over there, and instead of using only the antennas that are built into this thing, taking leads coming out of it and putting it into a cable like this and mounting it the antennas outside. Anyways, I can get into it. Any kind of questions you have, let me know. Let me go back up to here and see where we left off. All right, Luis, I'm ready to start my Starlink on the 15th, of July. Northern Hemisphere, I need the dish and support the north for the best reception. Yeah, so if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, when you get your dish, Luis, you want to point it north, and then it's going to decide where it needs to point. Mine originally pointed just off north, which was like northeast, but since I'm on the coast, SpaceX is now taking anyone that's on the coast and taking their dish, and instead of pointing it north, switching it and pointing it in the direction of the water. So I'm on the East Coast. My dish is now pointing over the Atlantic Ocean. If you're on the West Coast, your dish is now probably pointing over the Pacific Ocean. Why is that? Is because the satellites, as they fly by, once again at 17,000 miles per hour, as they fly by, those satellites that are over the ocean are not getting any use, right? So by everyone on the coast pointing over the ocean, that means that they will get more use out of those satellites before they're out of, like they're too far away, let's say. Okay, so that's why they ended up doing it. So point your dish north if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and let it do its thing. It will point wherever it needs to point as soon as it boots up and does its thing. But congratulations for getting it. That's awesome. There's a lot of people that are still without service. Matter of fact, let's pull up a Starlink map real quick and see if things have changed as of yet. They might. Maybe it hasn't, but we're going to see. Let's take a look at this. Here we go, guys. So there's the map. And as we can see here, here's the US. Let me come down in here a little bit. There we go. So we can see this area, all the dark area, is the waiting list. And all of the light area here, there is no waiting list. So all of Canada up here, no waiting list. The entire West Coast, all the way to mid US, and all of the upper US is now without any waiting list. So this is the only area that does have a waiting list, right in here. So we're run basically from Pittsburgh down to Tampa, and then over to Oklahoma and portions of Texas. Let's see here, Fort Worth. So that's it. We're definitely getting there. It is not bad. It is not bad at all. So I would venture to say that as we see more and more of these version 2 minis up there operational, as of right now, I do not believe there are any that are operational. Even though they launched a month ago, I have not heard of any coming online. I don't know. Maybe they have, but I haven't heard of any. But once they get to, once again, that magic number of 530 kilometers in LEO, or low Earth orbit, they will miraculously turn on, and now we'll be able to use those. And remember, those version 2 minis not only have their built-in laser communication, but the version 2 minis also, which is very, very important, have the means of backhauling for T-Mobile. Because remember, T-Mobile and SpaceX, Starlink, got into bed together, right? So they'll be able to start backhauling data. This is really big, because what will end up happening, not now, but eventually, people that have T-Mobile phones, T-Mobile connections, will be able to go outside, and when there's no tower near them, make a damn emergency call or do a text, let's say, through a satellite, through SpaceX Starlink, which is crazy, right? So they have the gear that they need, right, on these 2.0 minis already. So that's pretty cool. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But that's kind of like the skinny, what's going on. Let's see. Let me come up here. Bajarn says no more 1.5 satellites will be launched after this weekend. For now, it will only be 2.0 minis. That is correct, Bajarn. There is only 2.0 minis that will be going up. And remember, instead of launching 50 at a time or 55 in that cone section of the Falcon 9, they could only launch, I think it is 22 maximum. And the reason behind that is the version 1.5s are coming in at, I believe, 800 kilograms. I think it's right around 800 kilograms. Whereas I believe the 1.5s are coming in at 310 kilograms, I think. And the 2.0 minis are coming in about 800 kilograms. And then I think the big ones, the big maxis, are going to come in at like 1,200 kilograms. So you can see the difference, the disparity. It's definitely a more massive unit, the 2.0 minis. So you're going to only be able to fit, let's say, 22 instead of 50, let's call it, or 55. But remember, the version 2.0 minis have a 4x capacity. That's number one. So let's say instead of being able to accommodate 200 customers at 100 megabits per customer, right? They'll be able to accommodate 4x that, right? 4 times the amount. So 800 customers, let's say, at 100 megabits. And also the data capacity, not just the customers, but the data capacity, I believe is going to be a full magnitude more. So just add a 0 to the end. So if, let's say, it's 200 gigabits of throughput, the new ones will be able to do 2,000 gigabits or 2 terabits of throughput. So these things are going to be they're going to revolutionize stuff. Things are going to start changing. As soon as we start seeing hundreds of these 2.0s operational, I think you're going to see things start changing quickly. Definitely quickly. And once those 2.0 maxis, the big ones, the full versions are up there, I'm telling you guys, I'm speculating that we're going to see gigabit for business class, right? We'll see gigabit through Starlink probably within a year. right? That was his goal. Elon's goal from the beginning was to be able to do a gigabit system. And doing the analysis on it, I think he should be able to hit probably like anywhere from like 7 to 900 megabits. So a gigabit probably wouldn't be too far off. And as they get these things closer and closer, from 550 kilometers, now we're down to 530. Maybe they'll get approval to do sub 500 kilometers as we get them closer and closer. And as we start losing some of those ground stations and not need them anymore because of a lot of the data is being transacted in the cloud, let's call it the true cloud, non-terrestrially, through lasers in a vacuum, extremely fast. Things are really going to change. And I think we're going to see latencies come down too. So right now we're getting, let's say, 40 milliseconds, 45 milliseconds. Some people are seeing 50 or 60. I'm getting anywhere from 35 to 40 milliseconds. I guarantee you we're going to see 20 milliseconds, maybe even sub 20 milliseconds in the future. So, I mean, it's definitely going to be great. My biggest problem that I have with SpaceX, and I want to know you guys, I want to know what your thoughts are. The biggest problem that I have with SpaceX right now and Starlink is, number one, rain fade. Just like we saw when the storm came through, Starlink was gone. Let me switch back over so you can see my Speedify. Right now, Starlink is up. And I think it's going redundantly. Yeah, it's streaming redundantly because it's probably not seeing it as doing too well. Anyways, but the biggest problem that I have with it is technical support. SpaceX Starlink has the most abysmal tech support on the planet. Now, are they nice people over there? Yes. If you get through to someone, are they extremely nice? Yes. Do they send out brand new product when your product is completely screwed? Yes. They're very attentive when they can be, but the problem is there's too many of us to too little of them. That's my speculation. That's number one. We went from 100,000, like when I first started, 90,000, to 1.5 million. Now, how do you accommodate that? Did they do a tenfold in the number of people that are in their technical support center? Probably not. So there is no phone support. There's no email support. There is no live chat support. There's no. The only support that you can get through Starlink is through a ticketing system. So you have to put your ticket in and then wait. And wait. And some people are seeing wait times of like days, not hours, but days. I've had one guy said he waited over a week to get a report back and say, yeah, your system is screwed. We're going to send you a new one. But that's a long time. Okay, that is not the norm. When people get an ISP, an internet service provider, they're expecting like service, and they're expecting a 99.9999 uptime. We're not seeing that yet. And we're not seeing this service. So, hopefully they'll end up putting more customer service, more tech support online. But right now, it's not great. But then again, that's why I'm here, right? Let's see. Max, how are you doing, my friend? Let's see. Memorable places. We talked about that. Jean, we spoke about that. Let's see. Anthony says, which direction is your Starlink pointing? Mine is northeast. Yes, mine is almost due east at this point. Once again, it's because we're pointing over the ocean. Baron says 57 down and 19 up. Not so hot, but it works. Yeah, not bad. Just so you Baron, you get 57 down and 19 up. For over 2 decades, I was using AT&T UVerse. It started out first with DSL, and then they upgraded us to UVerse, which is complete shit. So we were getting 15 megs down and 1.5 megs up. 15 megabits down, 1.5 megabits up. And that's with a bonded pair. 2 lines to be able to get that. So if I had 1 line, it'd be like 7.5 by 0.75 megabits. That's how crap AT&T UVerse is. Okay, so yeah, 57 and 18 is pretty damn good, especially if you're in a rural environment. It's awesome. But you can always get better, right? There's always room for improvement. The new booster, I don't know what you're talking about there. Let's see. Ian says, did you hear of Home Bio, Digest Home Bio's company there in Israel? Disaster. No, I did not. Ian, tell me about it. Let me hear about that from Israel. Let's see. Ranch Dad says NASA spaceflight announced last 1.5 satellite next week on the 13th. Yep, that's it. 1.5s are done. Ian says, or you could, let me see, build your own, your live-in farm area. Let me know, Ian. Let's see. Tranquil Bay says smaller backpack size transceiver dish are coming. Yes, I heard about that too. Gen 2 satellites within a year. Yeah. So they were testing, I think it was 200 new dishes. And when they were testing them at different duty cycles. So yes, I heard of one being like half the size of the current one, but I didn't hear what the actual duty cycle was going to be on it. I think they were able to push the duty cycle from like 7% up to maybe 17%, 15 or 17%, something like that, and do it legally with just not over the amount of radiation to pass from the FAA. So they're not burning people up, okay? So they tested all of these 200 different dish models at 100% throughput, 100% duty cycle. If you guys don't know what a duty cycle is, it's basically how long the dish and the satellite are communicating before they turn off and then, let's say, reconnect. Turn off and reconnect, right? That's a duty cycle, okay? 100% duty cycle means that the dish and the satellite are connected all the time. And there's a lot of radiation involved in that. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of stuff, right? So you don't want to do that. So, but by making a duty cycle double of what we have now, let's say going from 7 to 14, let's say, you're going to have a lot less outages. The outages will be shorter. The times will be quicker. There'll be a lot of benefits to doing it. So I think they're approved for that. Now, what dish they ended up going with, I really don't know, Tranquility Base. But maybe if you find out, let me know. We can let everyone know. No Bad Hybrid says, big thunderstorms in PA. The other day, my Starlink dish went straight up. I don't know what this straight up thing is. Someone else said that too. That is the weirdest thing. I mean, I don't know. That's mine has never done that. But Jason says, I hope you are right on Starship timeline. I'm not as confident. The history of the SpaceX time projections say that every 1 month Elon says the event is away, you add 1.5 months. I agree. Elon definitely, he pushes timelines to the nth degree. It is what it is. So we'll see what ends up happening. Let's see. Hello from Quebec. How are you doing? Mr. Rainbow says mirrored screen. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So that must have been when I did the top camera. I don't know why it does that. I still haven't figured it out. For some reason, the top-down camera will end up mirroring itself. I don't know. I change it in OBS, and then it changes back. I don't know. Someone help me. Help me. Peter says, I have a question. Have you heard the new Viasat gen? They are saying that it's better than Starlink. Yeah, so I heard about the Viasat. They are definitely putting out more power, and they're saying that it's going to be a gigabit Viasat. The problem that I had with Viasat and HughesNet is they inherently are behind the 8 ball behind Starlink. And the reason being is Starlink is at let's call it 500 kilometers, 530. They're at like 20,000. Okay. So they're so far in outer space that the latency is still going to be there. So even if they can push just an ass load of data, let's just say gigabits of data, your latency will still be 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, a second, who knows? So I just don't, I can see them being used for certain applications where speed doesn't matter. But if you're doing a live, or if you're doing anything like playing a game or anything where milliseconds count, you can't have something that's 200 milliseconds, 1 second, 2 seconds. You just can't. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think that they're literally flailing to try to figure out how to save themselves from Starlink. I think the game is already lost, my personal opinion. Geo satellites are going to be for like governmental stuff. That's not as time sensitive, and then anything that is time sensitive is going to be swarm based, small, tiny satellites that are extremely close to Earth. My speculation. Who am I? Let's see. Pandemonium Pandai says, I'm moving to Rule. Any advice on ordering Starlink so the hardware isn't sitting on the porch of a new house before I move in? Yeah, so when you order Starlink, what you want to do is, if you can't get service in your location, you want to get best effort. That being said, if you can't get best effort, then get mobile or mobility. They keep changing it, okay? And you're going to pay a little bit more for slower speeds. But you can now, SpaceX has made it a thing where you can always change your service from mobility to a residential kind of ad hoc, at will, which makes it easy. So once you get it, you got it. But so it doesn't just sit there on the stoop. What I would say is get all of your stuff, all of your ducks in a row. Number one, buy an Ethernet dongle, because you're going to want one. Number two, make sure you get a mount for it, and get the right mount. Are you going to mount it to a wall? Are you going to mount it to an eave? How big or how far away does the unit have to be from your eave based on the angle of your roof? Stuff like that. Where is your cable going to run? Remember, they're only going to provide like 150 feet of cable or something. So keep that in mind. That means that your router, right, wherever it's going to, and then your dish is going to be within 150 feet going through the attic and wherever the walls. So that becomes, the 150 goes away really quickly. So keep that in mind. So kind of get everything slated, everything in order. So once it does get there, you could put it together. Once you put it up there, if you're in the northern hemisphere, you're going to face it to the north. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you're going to face it to the south, and then it will just automatically acquire the satellites, and within an hour, you're good as gold. Okay, so that's going to hopefully help out. But definitely get your mount, get your cables, get an extra cable if you want, different sizes. Make sure you get your Ethernet dongle and that kind of stuff. Everything beforehand, because later on you're going to get the stuff and you're going to be like, oh crap, and you're going to have to go order it. Make sure you have the drill bit, a 3/4 inch drill bit, little stuff like that, right? So you can drill through the wall, this kind of thing. Grommets, make sure you have grommets on both sides. Hopefully some of that helps. Let's see, RV Life says, do you think Starlink will get better over Georgia area? Would like to unpause it someday. Yes, it's going to get better everywhere, not just over Georgia. Because remember, those satellites that are over Georgia will be over California 20 minutes before that. You know, they're, like I said, they're moving 17,000 miles per hour, right? So they're going quickly. So it's going to be all the same. I think they're just going to get better, period. Low Tech Greg says, T-Mobile Home just became available to me. Want it. Try to justify the cost. The cost for this T-Mobile is $50. I'm going to talk about it in a video on Monday. It's $50. If you have T-Mobile like a phone, I think they give you $10 off. So now it's like, I think it's $40. But then they give you another $5 off if you do, I think, auto pay. Anyways, you can get this damn thing for, let's call it $35 for unlimited. 1/3 the cost of Starlink. So it is a great alternative, and for me it is a great backup. So yes, definitely get it if you can. Low Tech Greg, KM says, thanks for all you do, helping me out from Canada. You got it, KM. Appreciate you being here. PC Space Race, if Starlink is going to go from dish up to satellite, and then next satellite, then to pop, why is Starlink continuing to build ground stations? It's kind of like everything else. The same reason why they're building 1.5s, even though they know they were going to 2.0s, they do it because they need to do it for right now. There's too many people. 1.5 million is congesting the system, and that is why SpaceX has a loose, not cap, but throttle on the down speed. That's why you'll see down speeds that might be 100, but then you'll see 200, then you'll see 150. That's loose, okay? But when it comes to the up speed, you look at your up speeds and you'll see that go from 8 meg, 10 meg, 12 meg, back to 10. 10 is what they state that you will get. So every once in a while, you might see a 15 or a 20. That's in the US right now. That's more of a harder type of limiter that's going on there. And the reason being is there's just only so much data to go around. You have a pie, you cut it 8 ways, you can only give 8 pies away. 8 pieces of pie away. The only way to give more than 8 pieces of pie away is to cut the pieces smaller. And that's what they're doing. They're cutting the data smaller. Where I used to be able to get 30, 35 megabits up, I'm getting 10, 15 max. Every once in a while, we'll see a 20. There's only so much to go around. So that's kind of the gist behind that. PC Space Race. Anthony says, I'd like to know, I would like for you to show Speedify. I might get it as I have Starlink and fiber. Yes. So if you have Starlink and you have fiber, or you could have, let's say, 3 or 4 different ISPs, you can put them all into Speedify, and now they will be bonded all together. So it will do failover. So if anyone fails, you'll never know it. And then they'll also bond for speed if they know to bond. So basically Speedify has, like, let's call built-in AI. And the AI determines if you're streaming. Like right now on the screen, you can see it says streaming redundantly because it knows that I'm streaming. If I was just on the computer, it would say, hey, he's on the computer doing whatever, and he needs speed. So instead of saying streaming, matter of fact, right now, look, it says streaming with bonding. What that means is it's going for speed. And the reason it says streaming for bonding instead of redundantly is because it doesn't need to mirror the packets down both ISPs, because it feels, as of right now, both T-Mobile and Starlink are 3 stars, meaning that they are quality connections and they can go for speed right now. But as soon as one of them starts going south, it's going to say, hey, wait a second. All right, let's go ahead and change it to redundancy. And there you go. It says streaming redundantly now. Why? Because one of them is not doing so well. And it knows it. It has its built-in AI, so it knows that we are streaming and we want to make sure that that person streaming is not going to go down, or they're not going to spool and end up with, like, you know, the circular spinning thing of death. Okay, so that's kind of the skinny behind it. But yes, you can use Speedify you can bond your phone connection with SpaceX Starlink if you wanted to. So it's pretty cool. Once again, I have a link down in the description. Go check them out. Use JCristina if you want at checkout. You'll get 20% extra off. Let's see, what else do we have here? Let's come on down here. Who else do we have? Low Tech, Jason. All right. Hold on just a second. Let's see who else we have in here. Okay. Guys, any other questions? Put them in the chat box right now so I can find them. Make sure you put @JCristina or put a Q before the question. Either way. Monterey Bay says 108. That's from Rich. 108 down by 17 up. Clear skies. Not bad. Let's see. PC Space Race also says, let me see. Oh, we answered that one already. Here we go. I'm using, let's see, 26. What it says, I use 26 Starlink dish game changer for my enterprise. Really? 26 Starlink dishes. That is a lot of dishes. So you're getting a ton of data. You're not getting redundancy, obviously, because all 26 dishes are going to be pulling from the same satellites, but you're getting a ton of data. That's amazing. What type of enterprise do you have? to use 26 Starlink dishes? I would love to know. Wayne says, morning, Joe. Love your channel. Appreciate you. Thank you. From Melbourne, Australia. Wow. Wonder if you've heard the news about the Tesla. Yeah, I was hearing something about that. The Australia biggest telco have now teamed up with, I heard that this Telestra, whatever it is, teaming up with Starlink. That was really interesting. I was going to do a report on it, but I didn't get a ton more information on it. But if you have any links, let me know, because I'd like to read about it. And if it's something interesting, I'd like to share it with everyone. Salty Vet, he says, howdy. How are you doing, Salty Vet? Harvey Dawson says, sunny in Toronto. Not here, not here. Jason says, hello from southern BC, Canada. How are you doing? Harvey says, using a PEP wave for bonding, Starlink with cellular mobile and part cable Wi-Fi. Absolutely. I have a PepLink 20 Balance 20X with the different modules and stuff. I'm going to do probably a video on that one of these days. So basically, think about everything that you're doing in your your PEP wave or your PEP link, like I'm using Balance, whatever you use. Think about that as being the hardware version, whereas Speedify is the software version. The same type of bonding when you're down to packet level in comparison to session level. Most of the routers that you would buy in your store, right, your local big box, doesn't matter what they are, right? It could be a TP-Link, it could be a UTT, it could be whatever. Any of those routers that you get that do some type of bonding, or what they usually call them, if you look them up, failover, or sometimes they'll say multi-ISP failover or multi-ISP load balancing or whatever. All that stuff is just complete bullshit, okay? The reason being is the majority of them are actually doing, instead of packet-based, they're doing session-based. And what that means is, for example, if we're doing this session right now, right? And one of my servers or one of my services, my ISP goes down, well, it will not come back up until there's a new session, because the session died, it's out. So it cannot come back until we restart a session. So you would literally need to restart your Google Meeting or restart your live stream if you're using one of those services. They just don't work well. Do they work sometimes? Kinda. Do they fail over? Yes, they do. But a lot of times they won't fail back because it's a different session ID. It's a bunch of crap, all right? Whereas PepLink is probably by far the best, your PepWave, PepLink, whatever, the best hardware solution for doing this type of bonding. Second to, or maybe right behind or equal to, the software version of the Speedify. Same type of thing. Let's see. Jason says, hello. How are you doing, Jason? Max says, I'm planning on aggregating them to a maximum speeds, but also going to have a local Wi-Fi. Oh, you're going to do that. Okay. Like a 10 megabit as a backup too. Hoping that once each terminal can get 300 megs, I'll reach 1 gigabit. Yes, you can think like that. Yeah. But bear in mind, like I said before, Max, even if you have 100 Starlink, services, dishes, you'll have 100 times, right? You'll have a full, 100 times the amount of data capacity available to you. But if there's a rainstorm, all 100 go dead. There's no redundancy there. So yes, having that having like any other type of backup is really, really important. If not, you just end up with a whole bunch of nothing instead of just a little bit of nothing. You end up with a lot of nothing. RV Life says, question, let's see, will you ever do a tour of your studio? I will do that. I need to do that. My studio, if you looked at it now, you'd be like, holy crap. I've been doing this whole thing, with all of these antennas and this whole project. I literally have just, boxes and boxes strewn of stuff that I have to just get out of here and kind of like clean everything back up. And then I'll give you a tour. And we'll just kind of go around and I'll talk about like the different things that I have and what I do and how I do it. Hopefully that will help. But yes, RV Life, I will do something hopefully in the near future. I just got to get done with this project and 2 more, and then maybe we're good. Let's see. Hello and good evening, Joseph. That's from SC Aerials. How are you doing, my friend? Max says, is it for sure packet level? Is it for sure packet level? I don't like session level. Yes, you have to make sure that you got packet level. If not, you can just forget it. Session level just will not work. Speedify is doing for sure packet based, not session. Len says hello from Vancouver. How are you doing, Len? Appreciate you being here. SC Aerials says Steve Carpenter. Or Steve Carpenter is who you are. Waveform makes some outstanding booster antennas. Absolutely. That is, matter of fact, what I'm using, I have 3 right now. I have a MIMO 2x2 panel. I have a MIMO 4x4 panel. And I have a MIMO 4x4 LP, which is a log periodic. And I tested all of them for 3 weeks. And all of my testing will be published basically in a video, hopefully by Monday. I'm going to shoot for Monday, Tuesday the latest, but hopefully I'll get it done this weekend and be able to put it out for all of you guys on Monday. It was a ton of work, a ton. Let's see. Remember to smash the like button. I do appreciate that. Love the super chats. Love the likes. We definitely want to grow the channel as much as possible. Today, there was a lot of people that are like, oh my God, the video today was clickbait. It said it officially discontinued Starlink satellites. People lost it. They lost it. They didn't read the description. They didn't read the pinned comment. They didn't watch the first minute and 35 seconds. People just were losing their damn shit today. Anyways. Thank you so much, everyone, for the super chats, for the likes, the thumbs ups, for subscribing, for all of those things. We always love it. Thank you so much. Let's see. We have Anthony says, not mine, by the Pacific, and it points to the northeast. If you're on the Pacific and it's pointing northeast, that is weird. That is definitely weird. Never seen that. And Anthony says he's in Idaho. Mick, how are you doing, Mick? Hello and good evening, Mick. Appreciate you being here. Len says, is that due to local regulations? Is what due to local regulations? I know I'm behind a little bit in questions. Re-ask and definitely put in the full question there because there's hundreds coming through here. Let's see. Low-Tech Greg says, do you think that Starlink will upgrade their routers to 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi? I'm sure we will have to pay for it. 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. So Starlink routers have 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi ever since the beginning. So I'm not sure what you're asking. You're probably asking something else there. But if you go into your app, you'll see that it has 2.4 and 5 gigahertz. And if you want, you can split the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz apart. I do that and then have 2 different systems with 2 different, so each one has its own SSID, its own name, and then the 2.4 I'll give to, let's say, just people that come over to the house so they're not crushing the system, and then the 5.0 will only be for me or for the TV or something that I know needs the faster speed. That's how I work things. Besides, I do a lot of QoS stuff with a UTT router and switch and a lot of this stuff, but just that's a basic system, right? Just separating the 2. I always like doing that. Let's see. John says, question, are there connections for an external antenna on a T-Mobile box, or are you cutting and soldering? So there are no connections on the T-Mobile or the Verizon home internet gateways. So you definitely have to take 5 number 10 Torx screws out and pop the unit apart, and then you have to pop off 4 UFI connectors, which connect the 4 tiny antennas that go to the 4 corners of the box. And then you take the 4 leads that they provide in the kit from Waveform or from whoever, and you attach them, and now you have basically 4 pigtails that stick out. One for your LTE-M, LTE-D, your MIMO, and one for your 5G. So you have 4 antennas. That's how it works. But once again, Monday, you'll see the whole damn thing, all of my results, speeds, all the tips and tricks. I put a ton of time into that video. So check it out. Let's see. John says Apple is doing that now. People are getting safes with iPhones. Safes with iPhones? What? What is that? Repeat that, John. Let's see. Mago Vacay says, do you have Starlink? Absolutely. A lot of people here have Starlink, actually. If not, they're probably looking for Starlink or get some information about it. Will it affect the internet speeds? What are you referring to? Will affect? That's from Rude Stan 11. What will affect the speeds? Let me know. Let's see. We have it too in Idaho. Have no connection. Right. Let's see. Rude says, will it affect the internet speeds? What about cell phone? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Let's see. Now, John says, I can't wait for Amazon to start doing what Starlink is doing. Yeah, so Amazon, so of course, we're going to see OneWeb. We're going to be seeing their, what is it, Keeper system. We're going to see other alternatives to Starlink, but they're so behind, you know, in the race right now. I don't see them being able to pull it through. I just don't. But we'll see what happens. I would like to see another provider that's not a Chinese provider, because the Chinese government said that they're going to be putting 13,000 LEO satellites that are just like Elon's into orbit in the next couple of years. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But I would like to see another provider, local, that will be competing against Starlink. Why not? You know, competition is good. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be difficult because he owns all the damn rockets. You know, there's other companies that are launching rockets, but nothing at the scale that he can launch them at. It just can't do it. They just can't. Let's see. Don't forget to click the like. I appreciate that, Thorn. Thank you. Let's see. Lee says Starlink screws up my astrophotography. Lee, astrophotography is being screwed up by Starlink. My friend, that is 100% the case. But according to a bunch of new papers that were written, supposedly the new Starlink satellites that are up there that have the non-reflective matte black finish to them, that number one, and change their array and solar panel orientation based on the location where they are above the Earth to not reflect the sun onto the planet in that location, has supposedly helped with astrophotography, like, I think it was like tenfold. I think it was 10x. And some astrophotographers were unable to see some of the new satellites when they're in that mode. Now remember, when they're moving, okay, you might still see them because now they have to reposition and reorient themselves as they're moving in orbit, because they do use their thrusters to do that. But just think of it this way. If you look at this phone, okay, it looks matte black, right? It looks just like a black nothing, right? But so this right here, let's make believe this is the solar panels on the Starlink. satellite. But now, if I move it this way, watch what happens. Okay, you see this? Now all of a sudden you can see it, and it's pretty damn bright. And this is what has been happening before. But what Starlink is doing with their satellites is when they go over the Earth, so that that location on Earth doesn't get hit with this sun ray in this exact angle, it will, as it's flying over that spot, it will move itself and rotate itself so it looks like this all the time. So as it comes by, it will rotate. So instead of looking like this, it looks like that. Okay, so that's one of the things. Plus, it is a matte black finish, just like this phone. So, yes, it is hurting astrophotography, but I think that it's going to be hurting, radio photography as much, if not more, because a lot of the radio folks out there are getting a lot of clutter and noise in their RF frequencies, right? At different bands, at different frequencies, that there shouldn't be any noise coming out of those satellites, but they are. And that's something that supposedly Elon is addressing, because they only supposed to be broadcasting at a certain band, and the rest should be hollow or empty, but there is more white noise coming off them at different frequencies, and that is a problem. And supposedly they're working on that. That's kind of the skinny on the whole Astro stuff. Let's see. Thor says, mine still points northeast. Yes. Joe Rivera, how are you doing? How are you doing, my friend? It said, I worked for Uverse for a few years. On the tech side, I found that when it was good, it stayed good, and when it was bad, not fixed on the first or second ticket, it stayed sucky. Yeah, so Joe, the problem that I always have with Uverse is with DSL, it is a powered type of connection, right? You have a powered signal, whereas Uverse has no power. It is basically only frequency. Okay, so what happens is when you have a powered type of service like Uverse, you can push it for, let's say, 7, 8, 9,000, 10,000 feet, and it'll still be the same, or it'll degrade a little bit, but it'll be pretty strong the whole way. But with Uverse, if you're not within 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, you're getting shit. And that is the problem with AT&T and their just crap service. Because at 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet, the Uverse that could be 50 meg and 100 megabit is literally down to like 10 megabit at best. And that sometimes requires bonding of 2 pair just to get that. I mean, like right now, my Uverse has 2 bonded pair to get 15 down by 1.5 up, which is trash for 2023. Trash. That's literally like 1990s type of speeds, right? I mean, it's like, it's horrible. I think it should be criminal. The amount of subsidy that AT&T gets, it's sad that those speeds are even allowed. Anyways, that's my thoughts on it, Joe. Let's see. Any other questions you have, let me know, because I'm going to get off. I've been on for a while. We've been on for like an hour and 15 minutes or so, but keep those questions coming, and I'll stay on for another 5, 10, 20 minutes or something. We'll see. I'm going to try getting through all of the questions. Let's see. John says, I wish they will let us start paying monthly for the equipment. Yeah, they might do that. Overseas in the UK, you can pay for Starlink's kit instead of $599. You can pay $15 a month. They don't have that service in the US as of yet. We'll see. Max says, do you think that the 3rd generation user terminals could come out this year and maybe do away with the awful proprietary connectors? Hoping there's just the Ethernet. Yeah. So the original unit, the version 1s, you didn't need a dongle. They actually had an Ethernet port, a gigabit Ethernet port on the back. Then they got rid of the Ethernet port and they turned it into this whole proprietary shit, and it is what it is. So, do I think 3rd generation will come out this year? Yes. And no. I think we'll have. I will most likely say that there will be a new satellite dish. Okay, probably a smaller dish, a more compact dish. I think we're going to see a greater duty cycle, so you have a faster type of dish. I think that the version 2s, the rectangular dish, are going to be able to change their duty cycle to that increase up to 14, 15, 17% compared to a 7% duty cycle or so that the other ones are at, or the current ones are. But I think the round dish, the version 1s, will not. So anyone that has a version 1, I would say try to get a version 2 if possible. If the version 3 comes out, we will see. But I'm going to say it's probably going to be about the same thing. I'm probably going to say it's a different size, maybe smaller, a little bit more compact, more discreet, something like that. I doubt that we're going to see a residential size that's going to be a 22 by 21, the same type of thing that we see for business class. I just don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see. Let's see. Hello from Texas from John. How are you doing? Tim says, what are your thoughts on the Pi Tesla phone? Will they link to Starlink? I would like to see a Pi phone or a Tesla phone. If Elon made one, I will dump the iPhone and I'll grab one right away just because. That said, will it connect with Starlink? Absolutely. But Starlink will automatically connect to T-Mobile as of right now, once the new satellites are in operation anyways, because they have that built-in transmitter to be able to backhaul data to the phones. What is it, 12 gigahertz? 10.7 to 12.5 gigahertz or something like that. Anyways, so yes, if he makes a phone, it'll definitely be connecting through Starlink, but it'll probably also connect through a terrestrial type of tower base also. And chances are, since he's in bed now with T-Mobile, it will probably be on a T-Mobile LAN connection when necessary. That's my take on it. Salty Vet says T-Mobile Home is next level. I use it when I travel in the RV along with Starlink. Exactly. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Matter of fact, you can see that we're currently running redundantly, and we have Starlink and we have T-Mobile running together without a problem. Let's come into here. Ian says I meant stick, not sting. And yeah, Ian says it is a closed system, not stink. It makes, all right. Oh, okay. Methane gas you can cook with. Interesting. Burning of the toilet and hook up on the generator. Wow. Yeah, I would love to have a methane or some type of generator that runs on just regular, not propane, but some type of natural gas. I think that would be great, especially in Florida when we get hurricanes all the time. To have a solar array big enough to run my house, I would need like 20 massive panels and probably about $12,000 to $15,000 worth of lipo batteries. Too much. It's just too much. I want to do solar, but it's just so expensive. I have some solar batteries that are coming. I got some projects that I want to do, so stay tuned for that. But it's just, they're expensive still, right? The battery, they're getting lower. Obviously, they're getting cheaper, but the battery prices are just really, really high. Tranquil Bay says, question. So maybe a mini pack ready dish for second generation satellite within a year. That's possible. I mean, it is definitely possible. I think a mini, I don't see that it should be a problem. The problem the problem that I have, like a backpack ready dish, the problem with it is will they get approval to strap a dish and have that thing running at, let's say, 17% duty cycle? They probably won't. And the reason being is radiation level, right? How much of that would be legal, right? How much would be legal if you strap that to yourself? I mean, when you strap one of these things to your RV, it's at the top of the RV and it's pointing upward. And the radiation, for the most part, doesn't go into the RV, it goes up, right? Whereas if you have it on your backpack, I mean, I guess it would go out from you, but still it's right on you, right? So I don't know. I don't know if they would do it. But I mean, obviously we're just speculating here. Let's see. My 26 dishes are spread all over the province of Quebec, from remote internet in wild forest fighting operations. Gotcha. So wildfires and whatnot. It's what it sounds like. 26 dishes in different locations. Wow, that is a bunch of dishes. That is a bunch. But you know what? I think that SpaceX Starlink is absolutely perfect for that type of situation. You're in a rural area, forest fires, any type of location that you really cannot get service because there's no towers, there's nothing. All right. That's why they're using them, in the war over there with Russia and Ukraine. Why? Because they're able to have a network completely blown out, and that one little dish now provides, coverage for an entire, small battalion of people, let's say, which is amazing. So yeah, that's great. That is amazing that you can do that. 26 dishes all over Quebec. Very interesting. Jason says, question. Let's see. Is everyone else getting a lot of network issues when checking for outages in the app? I don't have any obstructions and tried a reboot. This just started a couple of weeks ago. Well, you know what? I tell you what, Jason. How about if we find out? Right now I'm connected to T-Mobile. Let me go ahead and connect over to Starlink. My Mr. Bevel. Let me make sure that he is up. He is up. Let's see. Mr. Bevel is good. All right. Let's go into the SpaceX app and see what it looks like. Now, remember, we just got hit with a massive storm, so you're going to see a ton of outages during the last short period of time. Let me go to stats and then outages, and there we go. Matter of fact, let me do a top-down cam and see, did it mirror it or does it not? Can you read this or can you not? Does it look mirrored? It does look mirrored, doesn't it? Let me see. Is it mirrored? It is backwards, isn't it? God, this thing is annoying. So let me see if I can get this thing to flip. Let's see. Let's go ahead and where can we flip this? Can we flip it or can we not? Let's take this Sony and do a flip. Can we do a flip? No? Maybe? I don't know. Anyways, like we can see here, just so that I'll just read it to you since I can't figure out how to flip this thing. I'm going to have to, I don't know. Anyways, so as we can see, from about 7:42 is when the storm started, and we have all of this outage all the way up to 9 p.m. But look at this one outage right here. From 8:20, when the storm really hit, 30 minutes and 23 seconds. 30 minutes, 23 seconds. That is a massive outage. And then all of these 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Horrible. But anyways, if we go back, we can see there's a lot of 2-second outages even back here, which we didn't have before. So yes, it looks like there's a bunch. If we go to 5-second outages, we can see what these look like. So yeah, my friend, I mean, honestly, it looks like they're having more outages than they have in the past. So I don't know what's going on with that. I used to be able to go into my app and look and see no outages at all, besides those 0.1 outages, which I don't really count. Those are more like handovers, from satellite to satellite. So I don't know what's going on with that. We'll see. Let's go down here. Oh, wow. Bill Franz, thank you so much for that super chat. My goodness. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Those super chats are so amazing. I really appreciate it. Wow. That's big. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. If you have any questions, Bill, just let me know. Let me come into here. Let me see where we left off. Right. Jason, we got Jason in. Chris, what's going on here, Chris? Chris says, or Ranch Dad says 85 megs down, 18 up. There you go. Let's see. Chris, 15, or what has he got? 54 ping, 200 down, and 20 up while watching you live. And that's from Canada. That is some good speed. I like that. Let's see. Marco says, hello. Bought my Starlink kit for about $200. And I'm paying like $40 a month in Brazil. Man, that is awesome. That is a great price. Let's see. Max says, sadly, at 1 gigabit, Peplink is way too expensive. Yeah, no, I get it. I know. Peplink is very expensive. And the reason being is that you pay for the modules, you pay for the unit, you pay for the monthly, you pay for this, you pay for that. It's a problem. Trust me, I get it. Let's see. Low-Tech Greg says, any possibility of doing a chat overlay on main screen? Yes. I used to have a chat overlay, and I kind of did away with it because there really wasn't a lot of people that were using it. You know, it was kind of like they would see it and then they wouldn't really care. Let me see if it's possible for me to even put a chat overlay back in here. Is it possible? Is it possible? Well, I'll probably have to look into that for the next time we do, but I will do it. The next time I will get a chat overlay back working. Let's see. That is, let me see now. Oh, I see Kamikaze Ozzy. How are you doing? I love doing some maker stuff. Give me a soldering gun and some wire, and I am done. That's absolutely. I get it. I love any kind of maker stuff. I love it. I love it. I am a tech guy, all the way from the very beginning. I remember when I first started. I started on an old Apple II Plus, and I used to write code in assembly, and then burn my own EPROMs. That was like back in the day. So yeah, I used to code in assembly, and then moved finally into Unix, BSDI and whatnot. So yeah, I'm like a coder and definitely a geek at heart. Okay says, awesome, dude. Keep up the good work. Appreciate you. Thank you for that. Let's see. The Fletch says, would you consider a video on how to use API scraping for data collection? That's an interesting topic. I don't know how well how things would go over for data scraping and using APIs, but I could look into it. We'll see. I will write that one down. Ian says, does Starlink coming out with a router with 6G? Haven't heard anything about 6G as of yet. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Kamikaze says, I love, got that one. Brandon, how are you doing? Brandon, let's see. Low Tech says, thanks for the information. Didn't know that. Brandon says, any news lately on improving Starlink support? Absolutely not. Starlink support absolutely sucks. And I wish there was another way about it, but that's just it. That is just it. Sadly, that is it. John says, people that doesn't have cellular service are getting help. Yes. Let me just say, if you do not have cellular service at your location, the video that I put out on Monday using that external antenna that look kind of like these things, right, will most likely be able to get you some signal, even if you're really far away. Even if your phone can just barely get connection through Verizon or T-Mobile, that should help. So stay tuned for Monday. Let's see. Terry says there is Canada Starlink hardware special at $179 in select Canada locations. $179 is cheap. Grab a few of them and sell them in the U.S. That is awesome. That is awesome. Kamikaze Ozzy says, Fletch, It is that so the ground observers can see through the satellites. I wonder how that works. Yes. John says, my T-Mobile home internet last 2 weeks have been working. In the last 2 weeks have been working great, but today it keeps losing connection. Nothing has changed at my house. Great weather. Any suggestions? So I would reboot it, number one, like factory reset it. And then what I would do is I would take the unit and put it outside. Power it up, let it acquire signal, and test it. If it works outside and it's not working inside, there could be something that has some type of RF interference, maybe a Bluetooth, a Wi-Fi, something else that has changed in your location. Try that. If it works outside, if it doesn't work outside, give them a call. They probably need a new router, new gateway. Let's see. Flesh says, when they turn the satellites, they present a smaller profile as viewed from a specific point on Earth. Correct. And that's the same reason why this is matte black. And if it's turned, all of a sudden you can see the satellite. And when they turn it, now you can't see it. When astronomers do photographs, what will end up happening is they'll see dark spots in the sky instead of light spots in the sky. Is that good or bad? The bottom line is they still can't see through the spot. It is still data missing. It is what it is. But it'll definitely look better instead of having streaks, all these streaks, which are basically the satellites coming by when you're doing long exposures, right? Terry says, did you know there is or was a Starlink hardware special in Canada area? I didn't know that. But yeah, 175 is amazing. That is great. John says, I guess Headson is hurting our internet. Yeah. Rude Stan 11 says, hi from Haiti. How are you doing from Haiti? How are you doing, Rude Stan? Do you think the internet speeds will be affected with the Dish version 3s? As we see newer and newer dishes, and as we see newer and newer, or the latest and greatest satellites, we're going to see faster speeds, lower latency, and of course, there's going to be less outages. But we're just going to have to wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see the version 2.0 minis come online and see what happens with that, because that's going to be a really good representation of what the 2.0s, the full maxis, let's call them, are going to be like. We're looking at 4 times capacity and an order of magnitude, 1 order of magnitude more when it comes to data. So let's say 200 gigabits turns to 2,000 gigabits per second. So we'll see what happens. Let's see, Dish version needs to be more energy efficient. Yes, I would like to see them be able to drop the energy usage on the Dish. My recommendation is if you're in Haiti, you're not going to have to deal with any kind of cold weather. You can go into the app, and instead of having your heater turned onto auto, you can switch your heater to off. And when you switch your heater to off, it will never provide more amp load to the Dish to heat it up, because the Dish doesn't really have a heater. It just simply pushes a greater amount of, let's say, amperage to the unit, which heats it up. So shut that off, and you might save a little bit if it turns on. And if you're in Haiti, the only time that I would say it would turn on is if you're having like a bad thunderstorm and the temperature drops. But it probably shouldn't drop enough for it to turn on, but who knows? Just shut it off if you don't need it. Like me in South Florida, I don't need it. We don't need any kind of heater. Let's see. Inductive Soul, how are you doing? Haven't seen you here as of yet. Welcome, welcome. Says T-Mobile service that is going to be put on the Starlink satellite will only be for SOS emergency and maybe texting. Absolutely. The data capacity is too low for any multimedia support. Yes, that's true. I think that they're going to be able to support 2 or 3 megabits or something like that. Something small. But yes, at first it's going to be SOS and emergency and texting only. But that's going to change. So we will see what ends up happening. I think you're going to be able to make calls, not video calls, but phone calls using Starlink when you're outside, going through that 10.4 to 12.7 gigahertz spectrum, somewhere on there. But don't quote me on it. I think you will be able to do that. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited about that because I think that's big. If you're in a location where there's no coverage, no service, there's no towers, and you still can make a phone call using, let's say, a T-Mobile phone, or let's call it a Tesla phone, or a Pi phone, or whatever. But let's say a T-Mobile phone. That's amazing. That's revolutionary. That's you basically now have a sat phone that used to cost you like $1,500 a month for the cost of a T-Mobile phone, right? Crazy. Very crazy. Let's see. Fletch says maybe a dish mounted to a quadcopter drone. Yeah. They actually, in the Ukraine, were mounting the dish to drones. And then Elon's like, no, I'm not, authorizing this. And there was a whole bunch of back and forth about that because he doesn't want Starlink to be used offensively. He just wants Starlink to be used as a humanitarian type base. So he definitely put in some, let's say, things to not allow certain things like that to happen. Kamikaze says, I do not know if a way to do an NG, yes, a generator that's not dependent on a main grid. My propane generator works great for my 250-gallon tank. Yeah, see, in Florida, the problem is it's very difficult to bury like a 250, 500, or any kind of big tank. Once you bury them, our water table is like 2 feet, 3 feet. You're burying basically a tank in water, and then it rots in a very short number of years. It's just not great. And then to put a 250 gallon sitting on the side of the house, it's basically like a massive bomb. I don't know. There's got to be other alternatives here. Once again, Bill France, thank you so much for the super chat. Really, really do appreciate it. Thank you. Inductive Soul says, this is no ionizing radiation. Wi-Fi or Starlink is not going to hurt you. The most it will do is cause your skin to warm, and that's for the power, different on power levels. Yeah, it's basically like a microwave, I suppose, but the microwave would be from the inside out instead of the outside in, right? So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, like, I think all radiation is not great. It doesn't matter what it is. Obviously light is radiation, right? Different, RF spectrum, different radiation on that spectrum frequency. So I don't know. I don't know. I think we are so just pummeled with frequencies and just going through us continuously. I just don't think it's great. If anyone has ever been, now I've talked to a lot of people about this. If you go to, let's say, Canada, or you're in Alaska, or someplace in a very rural environment where it's blackout, no lights, no electricity, no data, no shit, people that are out there, they have a different feeling in comparison to people that are in a city. And I think a lot of that has to do with us being bombarded with so much signal, right? It's the signal to noise ratio, right? There's just so much noise, so much signal, so much that is going through us. I think that it doesn't allow a lot of people to sleep well. That's why you see people that are like, oh, I go camping, I sleep so well. I'm under the stars, fresh air. Is it that? Or maybe it's because there's like less radiation, going through you. Right? I mean, I don't know. All right. Let me know what you think. Let's see. True Redneck says, so what does this mean? Less area or worse service? What do you mean by that, True? True Redneck, what do you mean by that? Kind of clarify that a little bit. Ian says, good night. Good night, my friend. Thank you for being here. Really do appreciate it. Let's see. Droplet says, when can chat about 26 dishes if you want, and how I use them. Yeah, so if you want, you can always DM me over on Twitter. My Twitter, just reach out to me, and we can chat on there, or you can send an email. Go over to JCristina.com /contact and send me over an email. I'd love to talk to you about it. Let's see. Oscar says the service has improved a lot from Alaska and now hardly have any major outages. That is really great news. That is awesome. Oscar says sometimes we see download speeds of 260 megabits and upload speeds of 30 megabits. Sweet. Josh says in Canada, getting 170 megabits down with Starlink. Sweet. That's nice. Kamikaze says, I wish my monthly fee was $40. Yeah, I get it. Watching from the Philippines. That's Runny Nose Music. Runny Nose Music. I like that name. Watching from the Philippines. Thank you for being here. Low Tech says assembly is awesome. It is. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. And I mean, it's root level. You don't have to worry about anything. You write your own code. Assembly is assembly. Good evening, Joe from Chatter. That's Arnie. How are you doing, Arnie? Thank you for being here. Wow. Didn't see you tonight. I'm glad you made it before I got off here. Oscar says, do you know if anyone's satellite will be heading to Alaska? Man, I would like to head to Alaska personally. I think that'd be awesome. I would love to see it. Baron says, check speed again, 52 down and 7 up. Arnie says, better late than never. Yes. Primo, how are you doing? It says, where do you get a nice necklace? Yeah, sorry. Off topic. This necklace is actually the Futhark runes. Basically, my ancestors are from overseas, European, Nordic, let's call it. So that's what they are. It's basically the alphabet, right? I'm not sure where this came from. I've had it for a long time. But yeah, I love it. Inductive Soul says, that would be cool. Let's see. Kamikaze says to Primo Victoria, I was wondering the same thing. It's boss. Love it. Heater on the dish will turn on during a storm, even if the outside temperatures are warm, as an attempt to boost signal. You are correct. And matter of fact, that was one of the reasons why I was always kind of like on the fence of turning the dish heater off, knowing that it's not actually a heater and knowing that it's an amperage thing, and it can increase amps if it needs to kind of cut through clouds, let's say, and let's say the noise of droplets in the air. That was always an issue. Now, I did do some testing during a storm, and I tested with the heater on and with the heater off, and I didn't get much of a difference, or nothing that nominal, let's say, right? Obviously, it's fluctuating all the time, so you have to take like a baseline or a mean. I didn't see anything substantial. So how much is it increasing? I don't know. I really don't know. But if you know, let me know, because I'm not sure. I didn't see any difference. But who am I? Primo says, where can I get one of those sweet necklaces? I don't know. If I find it by the next time I go live, I'm going to let you know. I will let you know. Josh says, how long with the version 1 Starlink dish will operational till they are discontinued, like the version 1s or the version 1.5? So even though version 1s were discontinued a long time ago, version 1.5s were discontinued this week. Even though they're discontinued, they will still be in operation. They're working, and they will continue to work from anywhere between 3 to 5 years. By that time, they will end up deorbiting, burn up in our atmosphere, and kind of look like a shooting star. And that's it. So they're not going to purposefully deorbit them. They will continue to use them until they're dead. So that's basically it. Remember, though, the version 1.0s do not have satellite to satellite laser communication. So they're going to be, let's say, they won't be able to do as much as the version 1.0 5s and the version 2.0 minis that will actually be able to communicate between one another through high-speed lasers in a vacuum, which is faster, theoretically. Anyways, let's see. Oscar says, how can we find out how satellites are, or how satellites are for Alaska locations? I would just go into your Facebook kind of, and see people that are around you in Alaska and see how many people have Starlink. And if they have Starlink, see what kind of speeds they're getting. That's really the best way to do it. That's why I tell a lot of people when I first started in beta, I said, talk to people around you and see if they're getting service and what kind of speeds are they getting and how many minutes or hours are they out of service, per day. That's what I was going by when I first ended up getting Starlink way back a year and a half ago, whatever. Let's see. Nelson, how are you doing, Nelson? It says, do you use any special devices for your audio? It's so crystal clear. Congrats. I appreciate that. So, my audio is a little pencil condenser mic. And matter of fact, you know what? Are you still there, Nelson? I'm going to show you this. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to pull this out. I'm not using this mic right now, so it shouldn't have affected anything. And there you have it. Let's see. Can I make it here? Let me pull this off. So this is what one of my mics looks like. There is the end. That is your standard XLR, right? And then on the other side, we have this little portion here. This little cap is a I believe, if I remember correctly, it is a condenser, but the polar pattern, let me see. Yeah, the polar pattern is very, let's say, conal in comparison to like an omnidirectional mic that picks up all around it. So it's very directional. So the audio is coming in from up here. There's one of these up here too. So that is it. It's going from an XLR straight into a little Scarlett. It's a 2x2 Scarlett. And then straight into being converted basically from analog to digital and then straight into the computer. And that is it. Nothing else is being done. I have an RE20 also, which is a radio mic. Let me show you this. You see that? Is that in the frame? Can you see it? Anyways. That right here is an RE20. That is a radio mic from back in the 50s. But this setup is about $1,000. It's about $500 to the mic. Then it goes through a SM, I think it's an, SMB 8 or 286S compressor. And then from the compressor into the computer, so on and so forth. So it's a $1,000 setup. But honestly, this sounds as good as this in this type of setting. So I absolutely love these things. I might actually do a review on this because it's just, I don't know, they're awesome. I don't know what else to say. They really sound good. But anyways, I'm glad that you like the audio. Hopefully we'll get that review out and then people can kind of see it and then maybe they'll want to pick one of these up. I don't even know if they're still available, but they must be. I don't know. We'll see. So anyways, let's go into the next question here. Who was that talking about? That was Nelson about the microphone. Let's see. Thanks for showing us. You got it. No problem. No problem, Nelson. John says, where's your wife? She is at home. I wish she would have came today, but she didn't. She'll be here next week. If not, we're going to have some words. I know you guys don't want to just see my mug. It would be nice to see her instead of me. That's for sure. Let's see. Primo says, that's interesting. Thank you. Kamikaze says, agreed on the radiation comment. Sunlight energy is not as energetic, obviously, as microwave. Our cell phones that are with us constantly or other types of RF radiation We do not have enough long studies. Yeah, that's true. We do not have enough long studies when it comes to all of the radiation that's going through us. And I mean, I know that a lot of people have stated that they just feel better when they tap out and be like, everything's off. And this has happened to us in the past. We had a severe hurricane, and my home went without power for 2 weeks. It was brutal, okay? But even though it was hot, humid, and disgusting, when you were sleeping, it's like it feels different. There's like nothing, because there's no street lights. There's nothing. There's nothing. So even though, yes, we still have cell towers and stuff that are far away from us, some of the cell towers without power too. So there was literally nothing. So you definitely get a different feeling when there's nothing on. So I don't know. I have a feeling that your body definitely senses the difference. But, long studies, they're just not around. Peter says, remember to smash that like button. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Peter. Let's see. Ella Bell. Question. Okay, gotta ask, what is the background music that you're playing? It's very relaxing. That is a good question. What is the background music? Well, you know what? I will look it up and I will tell you. Let's see. The background music that is playing right now is, let's see. Let me come into standby music. Here we go. It is, let's see. It is called View from Mars Ambient Boy Main Version. That's what it's called. So, A View from Mars. That's kind of apropos for talking about SpaceX kind of crap, huh? I didn't even realize it until just now, but there you go. Anyways, let's move on. Let's see. Oscar says, since the middle of May, Alaska has started getting a consistent signal without any drops of service. That is awesome. Let's see. Coming down here. All right, we got into this. Rude Stan 11 says, is Starlink working more efficiently in rural areas than urban or areas with concentrated users? So Rude Stan 11, basically Starlink always works better where there's less people. That's number one. But it also works better where there's, let's say, a opener area, let's say an area that's rural, right? The thing is in the cities, people don't need or want Starlink. Think about it, right? In the cities, you're going to have cable, or you're going to have, even better, fiber. So you're not going to need it. So for the most part, people that use Starlink are people that are in rural areas, people that are in RVs, people that are traveling, people that are nomads, digital nomads, people that are like that. People like myself that are on 5 acres. We're in an equestrian area with no municipality, no street lights, no sewer, no water. The only thing that we have is electric, and we have the most shittiest AT&T U-verse possible. That's all that we have. So Starlink is a godsend for me, my family, and a lot of other people that are in rural type of environments. And now T-Mobile is just damn amazing. And like I said, in my video on Monday, I'll talk more about that. Let's see. Primo says, man, I need to upgrade. I'm over here with some Turtle Beach on my head. Turtle Beach is a good company. They make some really good things for your head. Great speakers. Let's see. Oscar says, for Alaska, it seems like the service stays connected more than the past. LEO satellites since Starlink increased the power. I believe that absolutely the case. They increased the power. They're having more satellites in your area. And then, of course, they're also increasing that duty cycle, so on and so forth. There's a lot going on there. for sure. History Stamp says a mic review would be great. You got it, History Stamp. We'll definitely look into that, because I think it's just, when you get something that just simply works, you just want to talk about it. You guys, have you ever seen what these capsules look like? You can unscrew these, and this is basically your mic, and it comes with 3 of them. Omnidirectional, and then you have 2 of the different condensers, different pickup patterns, basically. And you just screw them in like that, boom, and now you have a different pickup. Just cool. And they're pencil condensers. Let's see. John says, can you put a battery backup on, or can I put a battery backup on my T-Mobile Texas Power? You can, absolutely. And I would recommend it, actually. Bella says, cool Mars music is perfect. Absolutely. I didn't even realize that. That is funny. Primo says, I wonder if someone could get Starlink in NK. Good question. I really don't know. I don't know. I mean, matter of fact, we're seeing Starlink as far as like getting close to the poles now. I mean, it's really getting pushed out there, which is amazing to me. It's on ships, all sorts of cruise liners. It's on all passenger planes. I mean, it's everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. It's amazing. Let's see. Phil Down. How are you doing, Phil Down? Says, question. What is the difference from the speed test and advanced, etc.? On my speed test, California is 45 megabits, 38. Don't go by that whole advanced test. Don't go by the speed test on... Go to speedtest.net, do your test there, find your closest server that it picks, and then stick with that server and do consistent tests at that server. Then if you want to do another test, let it find a new server, and then use that server over and over and over and do tests. I do 5 tests, sometimes 10 tests in a row. I delete the fastest, I delete the slowest, and then I take a mean of the 8 left. That's how I get my speed test numbers, because if not, you don't know what the hell you're getting. It's the speed test that they give you, it's just off. It is just off. Let's see. Ella says, loving how small too. Yeah, these things are so small and they just work great. Let's see. Oscar says Alaska has only one carrier. I didn't know that. That covers all of the state and charges a lot of money, but does provide the speeds that I see with Starlink. The carrier only doesn't provide the speeds. It says the carrier does. The carrier only provides 10 megabits down and 2 megabits up. I can see that. That's the problem when it comes to, a lot of these service providers. They don't give you a lot of speed, for your money. Let me try putting this back out of the way so that we can, let me do something like this and snap this back into here so we can get this out of the way. This cord isn't hanging down anymore. How's that? We're good? I think we're good. Yes? Maybe? Yeah, we're good. Let's see. Philip Dowd, thank you so much for the super chat. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Any questions you have, let me know. History says thanks. No problem. Rude says, can you directly incorporate a VPN into the provided router? You cannot. You have to use a third-party router, or like me, I use Speedify. And using Speedify allows me to have a VPN, but it also gives me that redundancy of multiple bonding, as you can see here. Guys, if we just scroll down, you can see here it tells us what Speedify has done, in the last X amount of time. And right here, we can see that it has saved the connection so far from disruption 5 times. It has saved from excessive latency and packet loss 13 times, and it has saved by connection failover a total of 7 times. That means that it's basically failed from one to the other, from T-Mobile to Starlink, Starlink, T-Mobile, that kind of thing. So it's definitely been working hard, especially when we didn't have Starlink at all for the beginning of the for the beginning of this live at all, which is kind of crazy. because of that big storm that we had. Primo says, on ships is a great idea. Yeah, I was on a ship about 4 months ago, and they had, I think it was 8 Starlink terminals, and we had pretty damn good coverage in the middle of nowhere, which is amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's see, Kamikaze says to Oscar, that's really interesting. Hopefully Starlink either puts them out of business or they learn how to be competitive. Absolutely. Well, guys, listen, it's been a long one. I know we've been on for 2 hours, so it's time to get out of here. I really do appreciate everyone for being here. I do have that video on the Starlink combination with T-Mobile and adding the external antennas to the T-Mobile coming up, I think, on Monday. So stay tuned for that. Like I said, I took 3 weeks of testing and combined it into about 30 minutes or 40 minutes. Okay, so definitely watch that. That was a big one. Also, don't forget to pick up my ebook. You can pick up, there's like 3 of them for free. You can go over to JCristina.com/book. Check that out. Join my mailing list. It is also free. That newsletter goes out weekly with some tips, tricks, but also I'm putting in there some good deals that I find. People have been wanting that, so there should be a good deal coming out next week. Go to JCristina.com/join. And if you enjoy this content, throw it a thumbs up. That's awesome. Subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, click this little button. So when I go live, you will see all of this. You will get notifications, supposedly. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this Friday night. I really do appreciate each and every one of you for being here. And we will see you next week, most likely Friday, hopefully with my better half and not just this mug. Anyways, thanks a lot for the super chats. Really do appreciate it. Love you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Have a great weekend. Take care, guys.